Story 1. Am I the a-hole for keeping my website up after being asked to remove it? Back in November 2018, I was arrested at work in front of my boss and coworkers. It was the most humiliating thing I've ever experienced. I later learned at the police station that I was being charged with multiple felonies. This came as a huge surprise. Luckily, I was able to keep my wits and lawyer up instead of speaking with the detective. For $13,000, which completely wiped my savings, I was able to retain a criminal defense attorney. However, it cost me everything and I was unable to pay my bond. This resulted in me staying in jail for a total of 54 days. At a status hearing, my attorney presented video evidence of me gassing up my car 3 hours away from where the crimes took place, and I ended up having all my charges dismissed. When I finally got out, I learned that I had lost my job, was in the process of being evicted, and my son was in the state's care. His mother is an addict, and I haven't spoken to my own parents in nearly 15 years. They wouldn't let him go to my girlfriend because they didn't consider her family. Since my release, I've learned that I can't sue the police, and no one gives a crap that I was locked up for 54 days because the detective did poor investigation work. I've gone to the local press about this and was told that what happened to me happens quite a bit. They took down my info, but never followed up. So what I did was create a website sharing my story. I also uploaded the police report and some other documents from the discovery. Literally, the only reason why I was arrested was because an eyewitness said they saw me. If the detective had done his job, he could have verified that I wasn't even in town on the day the crimes took place. This is what pees me off the most. My life was ruined because of a lazy employee. I'm writing this now because my website is now ranked number 2 on the first page of search results when you type in my town's name. I live in a touristy town and we attract a lot of visitors over the summer. My web traffic has more than quadrupled, and apparently it's gotten some higher-ups' attention. I received a cease and desist letter recently, which I showed to my attorney. He said sharing my experience online isn't illegal and that everything I have stated was a fact or my own opinion, protecting me from a defamation lawsuit. Yesterday, I received a visit from 2 officers and the detective who had me arrested. He apologized, stating mistakes can happen. They then talked to me about my website and asked if I could remove it. I said I would delete it on the condition that the detective leave his job and never do police work again. Suffice to say, that isn't happening. After the visit I received, I'm more peed off that the only reason the detective apologized to me was to get me to take down my website. I don't plan to, and the only one supporting this is my girlfriend. My friends think I'm being spiteful and have suggested that I just delete it. Am I the a-hole for keeping my website up? Your friends need to shut the F up. I'm sorry, you were in jail for 54 days. That's almost 2 months. You lost your job, were being evicted from where you live, and I'm sure had to go through quite a bit to get your son back from the state. Be mad. They gave you no compensation. A detective did lazy work, and it cost you so much, and the state, your town, none of that is doing anything to try and compensate you for their mistake. And I'm sorry, that's wrong. That just feels wrong. The fact that you can't do anything else about it is disgusting. And yeah, you should have that up, and more people should know about where that happened, and just, it's infuriating. I can't imagine what you had to deal with through all that, how much it scared you, the trauma you went through of just dealing with that, being away from your son, your girlfriend, losing your job. Like, I'm sorry, that is so much. And the fact that the legal system is just like, well, too bad for you, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, that's not okay. And I hope that your website gets even more traffic. And I hope folks in this video, boy, if you can find out where that website is and share it, please do. Story 2. I don't care if you're living here, my daughter wants to rent. My wife and I moved to Mississippi after getting married. She's a native and I'm from out of state. We met online and had the wedding in my hometown. She had a full ride and assistantship at Mississippi State, so it didn't make sense to have her give that up. We were fortunate in that her grandfather had an extra property he wasn't using and he let us stay there rent-free. It's a crap shack in the middle of the woods that was built by an idiot who has no business playing with Legos, much less building an actual structure, but hey, it's free. I can only complain so much. My wife's schedule varies greatly by the day, which saw her alone at the house while I was working when the entitled mother showed up. EM entitled mother, wife, GIL, grandfather-in-law. So my wife is hanging out in the living room doing some work before she has to leave for class when she hears someone drive up. Our house is really out of the way, so we don't get guests. She was going to get her handgun when she saw a slightly older lady walk by the window. Not seeing a threat, she went and answered the door when the knock came. Wife, can I help you? Entitled mom. Yes, I want to talk about renting this place for my daughter. Oh, sorry, but me and my husband are living here. Well, my daughter's in college and needs a place to stay. Well, that's great and all, but like I said, I live here. I was hoping to talk to a grandfather-in-law. Wife getting irritated. No, the house isn't for... I know him personally, you see, and I wanted to talk to him about renting. I don't care if you know him. Your daughter can't stay here. My husband and I live here. What are you getting about? What aren't you getting about that? Young lady, I'm sure grandfather-in-law won't appreciate that you're talking to me like this. I'm sure my grandfather won't give a damn that I told you your daughter is going to have to find another place to live. Entitled mom looks shocked at the mention that grandfather-in-law is actually my wife's grandfather, and she wasn't some random squatter living in this house. She huffs, turns on her heel, and goes back to her car. My wife goes back inside and uses a sturdy note card to create a sign that is taped to our door to this day. We are not and will not be renting. Management. Edit. Getting a lot of questions about why my wife went to grab her gun. We live in a very isolated area outside a small, poor town. You have to go out of your way to get to our house, and the only people who visit us are our in-laws. They do so very rarely and always call before coming. Someone driving up to our house is suspicious for these reasons. We're not preparing to take shots at the first sign of movement. We're just being prepared in case the worst comes about. I mean, really, you get the gun just in case the in-laws do decide to visit, am I right? But, yeah, no, why is she going to the shack instead of going to the grandfather-in-law to be like, hey, do you still have that shack to rent? Like, for my daughter's looking for a place. Like, if you want to rent a place, don't just... Okay, I'm saying it, and I've actually, gone to buildings to check them out before I talk to the person I would be renting it to. So I guess I kind of get that. But if it's way out of the way and stuff, I don't know. I still would have at least called the grandfather-in-law first and been like, hey, do you still have that place? You mind if I go check it out? Like, it's private property and stuff. So yeah, do that first, lady. Don't just go there and be like, my daughter needs a place to live. She would like this shack, please. Story 3. Your friends won't stop parking in my driveway? Congrats, your parents know you vape at 16. My neighbors have a teenage son whose friends keep parking in my driveway. I went to check my mail last week and saw them all out front and decided to nicely bring it up, which was met with eye rolls and fake okays. Monday comes around and I come home to find 3 of his friends' cars taking all the space I have to park. It was a 14-hour day for me, so I wasn't having it and made my second approach with the intention to make myself very clear and said I'd make it the neighbor's son's problem. Tonight I got home and it happened again. I went next door and an adult finally answered. I brought up the cars at my place and added a side note their kid never expected. He's also been throwing his disposable vapes in my yard and I have the other neighbors as a witness. So I casually asked them to make sure that stopped, and the instant change in expression told me everything I needed to know after I walked away. Shortly after, his friends left, and I can assume they probably won't be back for a while. Happy spring break, kid. Alright, first off, teenagers, stop vaping. It is not cooler than smoking. It's the same thing, it's fruit flavors and stuff, okay? It's not good for you. Maybe it's better, but just don't mess up your lungs with that kind of crap. There are better things to do, all right? I don't know, I'm just saying. And this is coming from someone who smoked, okay? I used to smoke, yes. Not for too long, but yeah, I did a little mini cigar, stuff like that. Vanilla flavor, yeah, I was that a-hole. Anyway, second though, why do you have to be dinks about parking? Like, come on, teenagers, be like, yeah, sorry. Like, try and be at least a little understanding. Like, I understand. A lot of times, adults are just crabby and so uncool or whatever, and sure, when adults come up with absolutely stupid rules or whatever, like, blow them off as long as you're not endangering people or breaking the law. But when it comes to, like, parking in someone's spot, like, just because you're rebelling doesn't mean you have to be, like, inconsiderate. That's just preparing you to be inconsiderate adults, and that sucks. Those are the people that you should not like and not want to be like. Story 4. Little entitled crap eats crab in aquarium store and mom defends him. Alright, boys and girls, this seems super unbelievable, but when you've been working in the pet trade as a sales associate for long enough in weird areas, you start to see your fair share of entitled kids and crap-stained parents. My first of many stories, so don't be too harsh. For context, I work at a mom-and-pop pet store in the eastern US, and while my expertise is in aquatics, I try to be a jack of all trades. The day that this happened was rather uneventful until this point. All up until Little Crap, LS, and Pig Effer, PF, entered the store. My store was pretty modest, so it was fairly easy to see customers come in and out, especially in the fish department, so I got first look at this magnificent creature, a 40-something-year-old woman talking on her cell, her hair obviously dyed blonde and outfit practically screaming midlife crisis while her child was in tow. The kid must have been 7 or 8, the kid playing on his Switch, his shirt covered in what looked like a mixture of pizza sauce, soda, and plenty of mystery stains. At first, things were pretty normal, the kid originally not caring about anything in the store, while PF was getting enraged at him for not paying attention, though that changed rather fast. PF and LS were near the ferrets when PF took LS's Switch, immediately causing a reaction of screaming and pouting before being distracted by some of the fish in my department. Alright. A bit of unnecessary information, but the way my store's fish department is set up is that 2/5 of it is freshwater, 2/5 is equipment, and the rest is saltwater. Given we weren't really known for saltwater, we only kept pretty generic yet sought-after fish like hippotangs, various clownfish, 6-line, wrasses, etc. The thing about the first two is because of Finding Nemo, kids are always drawn to the Dories or Nemos. Alright. That all in mind, the first thing us did was head over to the small assortment of hippotangs we had, practically pressing his crap-covered face against the glass as he yelled out, "Dory!" as loud as he could. PF hailed me down from algae scrubbing, and this started the encounter. I like to act casual around the workplace as I find it lowers any sort of anxiety a customer has and makes me way more approachable. First thing out of my mouth was, "Hey there, how's your night going? Need help with something?" PF started out our encounter with a roll of the eyes before pointing to the tang and demanding a price with a simple but rude, "How much is this thing?" was the way she said it that was rude. After shifting gears from a casual standing to a more professional one, I simply told her that the tang was $160. He was a good-sized tang. Of course, she scoffed, but what came next was a bit more worrying. PF pulled out $30 from her purse and placed it on the desk we used to bag fish, saying in an aggravated tone, "That's all you're getting. Bag him." Things started to go poorly from here. It's worth noting that it was 9:15 at this point, the store having closed 15 minutes ago, though we make it a policy not to ask customers to leave until 9:30. It was just my manager and myself at this point, my manager in the office closing down registers, so essentially, it was like I was the only employee in the store. Seeing PF placing the $30 on the table, I raised an eyebrow before leaning against the wall, simply asking her, "Do you have a saltwater tank?" She didn't take this well. She screamed without a second passing, "None of your business! Now bag my fish, you little crap!" I simply refused and slid her $30 back toward her before she slid it back, now more peed off. "I'm gonna get your butt fired if you don't bag my fish right now." At this, LS was getting peed at the interaction, screaming like a banshee about how he wanted the tang, still referring to it as Dory, and beginning to stomp his feet in a tantrum. Soon enough, I was asking them to leave. So this is where I effed up. I should have called the cops at this point, knowing that she wasn't going to leave without a fight. LS was on the floor at this point, pounding his fists on the floor as snot dripped down his face as PF tried to guilt me. "Sorry, sweetie, this guy doesn't want you to have the fish. He's perfectly fine with you having no fish friend to make you happy." At this point, she turned back up to me. "Do you see what you did, you stupid F? You're breaking my angel's heart because you're being too much of a Jew to sell me the fish." Internally, I was laughing. This kind of situation happened now and again, but the anti-Semitism was a new one. I had figured everything was starting to resolve at this point, though I was mistaken. LS flipped crap. You know how some opera singers can break glass with their voice? This kid would have a knack for something like that. LS was screaming as loud as humanly possible at this point as he managed to reach into the tank. At last, my manager had made his way out of the office and was watching what was going on. LS grabbed a piece of live rock, accidentally grabbing a long spine urchin. Angry screaming turned right into wails of pain as he pulled a rock out of the tank, a poor little pom-pom crab in tow. At this point, I was less focused on the kid, but more focused on making sure my manager was calling 911, which he did. When I turned around, I saw something that still gives me nightmares to this day. The kid had been clutching his hand while his mother tried to help him, something hanging out of his mouth. The poor little pom-pom crab had been crushed by the kid, LS having shoved it in his mouth and chomped down on it, leaving a little claw hanging out of his mouth. The next 2 minutes was a strange combination of astonishment and panic, myself telling the kid not to move his hand since he would break the spines of the urchin, while PF began hitting me with her crappy purse, screaming that I hurt her kid. Your kid shoved his hand into a tank, one with a toxic animal nonetheless, a foxface rabbitfish, and did this to himself. Calm the F down and leave him alone so when the paramedics get here, they can get the spines out. How dare you? You expect me to let my angel suffer? If you just sold me the stupid fish, this would have never happened. Your kid reached into the tank and ate a crab. What the F did you teach this kid? Don't you ever tell me how to raise my angel. He has the right to eat that crab. You took something from him and he took something from you. By the end of this interaction, the paramedics had arrived, restraining the kid and taking him into an ambulance as the police tried to sort things out. Unsurprisingly, PF tried to pin everything on me, saying I threw an urchin at him, what the F, and he ate the crab in a panic. Equally unsurprisingly, we had the entire thing on CCTV, including PF hitting me with her purse. Long story short, PF was arrested for aggravated assault as apparently she had stuffed the rock into her bag to give it extra punch. Didn't notice until after the paramedics saw me that I was bleeding on my leg from the jagged live rock. After getting a statement, the cops left, PF and LS going off to whatever the hell the cops took them, and I got out of everything with 8 stitches and a $300 bonus from my boss for handling the situation without anyone getting seriously injured. From what I ended up hearing, the kid had actually got stung by the foxface's dorsal spines, and that sent him into a blind rage. The mom got a plea deal, and she ended up with a huge fine, some jail time, and some other crap. In summary, I didn't sell entitled mom a fish, kid flipped crap, grabbed an urchin, and ate a crab. EM got arrested for assault. This was by far the worst situation I had ever had in the store, and I still can't believe the outcome of this till this day. This was 3 years ago now. I was at work the other day when I saw a pouting kid over a mom not letting him get a hippo tank, and this has been brought to the front of my mind ever since. Edit. At work at the moment, I'm going to try to find out what happened from my boss later. Just noticed an inconsistency with the timeline. The switch wasn't out yet. I personally always remembered it as a switch, though given the circumstances, there's a big chance that it was an iPad or something similar in shape. I'll leave this here just so everyone knows. Also, thanks a crap ton for the silver. Edit. So a lot of you guys have been asking about what ended up happening to F and LS. I sat down with my boss this morning and asked about the events, and while I didn't get all the answers I was looking for, this is what he had to say. As I've stated, I still stay up now and again wondering what can make people act this way, and I did get a few answers. According to my boss, the woman PF was the wife of a known M dealer, which didn't exactly surprise me given what happens in my town. The cops never had gotten a warrant to search their property for whatever reason, but this had given them the opportunity. From what he was told me, the woman was abusing prescription antidepressants and drugs for ADD and had a meltdown. Although I pressed charges, I never was called to court, and from what we could assume, PF most likely struck a deal with the police to rat out her husband. I don't know the story with LS, though it wouldn't surprise me if he was on the same toxic cocktail of drugs. In regard to the CCTV footage, he had told me that he handed it over to the police and couldn't show me for legal reasons, but there wasn't much to see other than my manager running to the sales floor. The way our CCTV cameras are placed only really show part of the sales floor, the office, and the register counter. Medical bills were way easier. I've been on an expensive med not covered by most insurance for most of my life, so I've always had to pay out the butt for a really good insurance company, and this time it paid off. I ended up with a $100 charge for the ambulance, though my boss reimbursed me. Honestly, this was a really surreal situation, and it has really confused me for a while, but I'm pretty happy I got things cleared up. Hopefully PF is rotting in jail and LS is getting the love and direction he should have been getting all along. Yeah, that is a nightmare woman. That is a woman straight out of my nightmares when I worked in retail. I've dealt with some pretty ridiculous people. I've had a remote thrown at me and a cable box almost slammed down at my hand when I worked in a cable office. I've had people screaming at me and knocking stuff over, but this one really kind of takes the cake. I don't know. This would be too much. I would need a vacation after this. But it sounds like you handled it well, and I'm sure she got off with less than she deserves, but hopefully, like you said, she turned in her husband. Hopefully she got herself clean and can better her life, and hopefully that kid got the help he needs before he was just irrevocably turned into an absolute monster, because whatever parenting was going on there was not doing a good job for that child. And yeah, also, rest in peace, sweet little crab. You will be missed. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.